You've got two pills in front of you. The blue pill, if you can see it. You turn off this podcast, go about your day, and pretend this reality is all there is. But the red pill, you stay, listen in, and we take you deep into the world of the Matrix. Which one will you choose? Well, I'm assuming if you're still here, then you've chosen to go with the red option. So, welcome to Seismic Cinema and our review of The Matrix. You can follow Seismic Cinema on X, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and Facebook, both the Facebook page and the community group. You can watch or listen on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, and Amazon Music. And at the moment, 66% of YouTube viewers haven't subscribed. So if you could hit that subscribe button, if you enjoy this episode, then that would be greatly appreciated. And finally, we are part of the Podpack Collective, a group of podcasters who like to support each other, chat and share ideas. And you can follow all the Podpack Collective and all these podcasters on social media.
Watch It If You Can podcast. Join us for each episode as we create box sets of our favourite films and TV shows.
We go through the cast to see what else they've been in, along with any recommendations.
We pick our favourite characters, performances, moments and highlights from the soundtrack too.
We ask if there's anything to make it better and look at the lasting legacy of our pick.
We have a little fun with our quickfire round, and finally, what else would you like list based on themes from the episode.
Maybe, just maybe, you should watch it if you can.
What if they've already seen it?
Well, you can watch it again if you can.
Okay, so recent episodes we've had include American Psycho, Toy Story, and The Prisoner, no, not Prisoner of Azkaban, Police Academy. I was one step ahead of myself there. So just before we get into looking at The Matrix today, James, I was just wondering, I need my weekly film where you're at with Dexter and Operation Bigfoot.
So I managed to finish Dexter.
You finished it?
Yep. So that was the second of the second watch since I first watched it back in the day. I've started watching Dexter New Blood. So I'm on episode 6 of that now. So I've just went through them. It's good, just being off work and things and getting through a lot of stuff.
Is it? What is that? Is it a prequel, sequel?
It's a sequel. So I won't spoil it or anything because I know that you have not watched it yet. So it's a sequel. But I hadn't seen New Blood. It came out a few years back, so I haven't seen that. So I got quite bad reviews, I'm sure. So I kind of wanted to stay away from it. But actually, I kind of regret not watching it when it came out because actually it's not too bad. So I quite enjoy it so far. It's quite good. It's got Clancy Brown in it, which you'll know from Lost and other things we've done before. Obviously, Michael C. Hall as well, and a few other kind of recurring characters from the original series. So it's good. I finished Expedition Bigfoot. I think I said last time that it was a disappointing finale, and obviously I watched The Matrix as well. So I've been relatively busy on the watching on the TV screen, whatever. I mean, I could be watching more, but really I don't have time. But what about yourself?
Well, I've had the 2 weeks off, as I like to rub in. So I have watched a few things. I've watched the first 3 Harry Potter films. I was doing a bit of a marathon of them. Getting really into Boston Legal, which I'm really enjoying. Only Murders I'm still going with, even though I'm not really enjoying this season, I'll be honest. I started watching The Haunting of Hill House. I'd kind of started it before, and I was thinking of maybe working my way through those series because they're pretty highly regarded. You watched any of them before?
I've seen the first one, the first season. I think it was decent. Is that the one with is it the Beck Neck lady?
Yeah.
I've seen that. I didn't realise there was more than one season, to be honest with you, mate. So
No, it's not. It's not seasons. It's like the same creators get different. There's like the Haunting of Bly Manor. There's like different shows from the same creator
I see.
in this similar kind of vibe. I'm watching a weekly Suits kind of rewatch podcast that some of the actors are doing. So I've been watching wee bits of that here and there. I watched Murder in the Orient Express and Death on the Nile. I took a fancy for watching the kind of detective films. And for background, when I was doing something the other night, I was watching Scream 6 on Now TV. So I have been watching a fair bit this week, actually.
Sounds like it.
Compared to previous weeks, anyway. Right. So James, I feel like a wee bit of a phony here. Like, although this was my pick for this week, I really feel like it should be you hosting this episode because standing by our original mantra of I being Colin, who's not seen it, Paul probably watched the other Matrix films before this one, and James, there's no doubt you've written an essay on it. So could you give me a wee bit of your background on this movie?
Certainly. So this came out in 1999. So even though I didn't go to Pickle to see it, I remember getting this out of the video shop back in the day, and it was one that I think it got it for the weekend. I think, and I watched it just over the weekend. I watched it hundreds of times. Like, obviously not 100 times, but I watched it a good few times. And it was just one that I thought, wow, what a film this is, to the point that me and my younger brother, would basically would fight after it, as as brothers do. Do you know what I mean? It just the fight scenes in it just wanted you to battle one another. So it was good. Do you know what I mean? When this came out in VHS, probably it wouldn't have been in 1999, depending on when this came out in terms of what month it came out. I reckon it might have been early 2000s. I seen it just because the way it came out in cinema and it really served the VHS. But I did see it when it came out. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like yourself, who's probably not seen this, I'm going to guess. And it's just a phenomenal film, mate. Do you know what I mean? It's not one I've actually watched in a while. Like, see, when it came out and I bought it in DVD, I watched it relentlessly. It was so good. I don't know if we're going to touch on the sequels thereafter, but this film, it's amazing, and it was actually quite good that you actually suggested this one because I hadn't seen it in a while, and it just kind of brought back all the kind of memories and whatever when we watching it for the first time, and thereafter.
Yeah, it's one like it's obviously a movie I've always heard of, and I've seen it like spoofed and referenced in various other like movies and shows. Particularly when I was watching it, it reminded me of I don't know if you've ever watched Spaced or heard of Spaced.
Oh, of course I have.
You watched it, yeah. There was quite a big like Matrix kind of arc, or not arc, like kind of parody in one of the episodes. It's one I've been meaning to watch for quite a while because I think it was on Amazon, like a piggyback off Paul's Amazon, and it was one like there's been 2 or 3 occasions where I've about to sit down and hit play, but I just never did. So that was a big reason for picking it for this week, was to eventually watch it. It's a strange experience watching it in 2024 because so many of the still images and the wee clips I've seen in other kind of review videos or just on the internet as memes. Like it's a film that you kind of see everywhere. So that gave me a kind of interesting perspective on it anyway. So before we get into the main review, I just want to touch on a few of the social media comments from our followers. Stu World Order said it's still great, but has aged a little badly. It almost reads as a parody of itself sometimes, probably because some of it is so iconic. So I suppose that's what I was just saying there. But since it came out, I have knocked it down to a 4 out of 5. So I'm assuming it used to be a 5 out of 5. James, you want to give any thoughts on Stu's comment there? Agree or disagree?
I disagree, to be honest with you. I think, no doubt, for the time it came out, it was revolutionary. Do you know what I mean? It was amazing. I think because obviously as time has progressed, films have got better in terms of CGI and whatever. And so I think it's. I don't know if I don't think I agree with the fact it's aged badly. I don't think it has. Of course, there's going to be questionable scenes in it, but I think that's a bit harsh saying that. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. So, Stu, thanks for your comment. We appreciate it. And Craig from What's the Script said, groundbreaking, fantastic story, thought provoking, great cast, wardrobe, sets, and brilliant CGI, cool phones too. So that was the comments from Craig, who's obviously a big fan of the film. And James, we're also a big fan of Craig and What's the Script at this podcast as well.
Well, his comment I am more inclined to agree with. I think it is, again, groundbreaking. And I mentioned in the Twitter comment as well that those phones at the time were really cool. And so much so that, I had at the time I had my Nokia 3210 and I just wanted the wee kind of flip phone just to like kid on I was in the Matrix type thing. But I'm a big fan. What's the Script? I mean, their latest podcast, what was it? It was, was it the Revenge of the Sith, was it?
Was that one since then as well?
No, it was Inglourious Bastards. I'm talking
Yeah.
rubbish. I listened to that. That was a good one.
Gonna have to bleep you out again.
It's a title track.
We joke.
Aye.
Cool. And Stand and Watch said it's still really, really cool. And Da Podcast said best film of 1999. And I actually looked back at the films that came out in 1999. There was quite a few big guns in there, so that's a lot of high praise.
Which one?
Which one? Do you know a wee flavour? I suppose I can't leave you hanging like that. Let's see if I can find it. Green Mile. Oh, it's not loading. Fight Club.
Oh.
Typically, it's not loading now that I want it to load.
I mean, those two films are an amazing. Do you know what I mean? Fight Club is phenomenal as well. I love Fight Club.
Yeah, it's not loading. Anyway, there's a wee flavour for you anyway. So just a wee bit of background on The Matrix. Came out in 1999. It's 2 hours and 16 minutes long. It's an action and sci-fi movie. It follows Neo, a hacker who discovers his reality as a simulated world controlled by machines. He joins rebels led by Morpheus to fight the system, uncovering his destiny as the one to free humanity. And on IMDb, there's an 8.7 rating and a 73 score on Metascore. And I've added Rotten Tomatoes in here as well, which is 83%. It received or won 4 Oscars, one for film editing, one for sound, one for visual effects, and one for sound effects, along with 52 other nominations. So it did pretty well there. And last but not least, the box office figures, which I realized I forgot to do the last time I hosted. The budget was 63 million, and its worldwide take-in was 468 million. So did pretty well in the box office as well. The cast, John Wick himself as Neo, Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus, Carrie-Anne Moss as Trinity, which I remember you referencing I can't remember why you referenced her. You referenced her in one of our other podcasts. Was it?
Aye.
She was the mum, wasn't she?
Aye.
Yeah. Hugo Weaving as Agent Smith, Joe Pantoliano as Cypher, Marcus Chong as Tank, and Matt Doran as Mouse. And I'm always thinking of a character to choose from a screen name. And as soon as I saw Mouse, I was like, yeah, he's the one. So I just went for him anyway. Okay, so that's just some of the background on the movie. So as I said, I'm a first-time watcher, believe it or not, but living up to our tagline, and James has obviously got a lot more experience in this film. So I just thought we would start. Going to go through just some of the key scenes for this review, starting in with the opening scene. and the kind of the main setup for the plot. So, James, do you want to get the ball rolling just on the kind of the opener to the film?
Alright, so that was Trinity, wasn't it? So that was it's quite a good opening, I think. I mean, you've got the kind of the Trinity, we call her, that's her name. So she's trying to get away from the police, and at the same time, you get these kind of it's like the chases. She's running away from the police, the police, and it's kind of like she's kind of demonstrating kind of like all the different types of strength she's got, like superhuman abilities type of thing. And you get obviously she defeats the police officers with quite ease. She's gets round them and batters them and things like that, and but I think when it comes to it, we see these kind of these guys in suits who we know later as agents, and they've obviously got like superhuman strength as well. Do you know what I mean? Like that's how we see it at that moment in time. We see that kind of the agents, they kind of seem to be like a lot more agile, and it's clear that that she's the one they're trying to get, they're hunting type thing. Like, and they're both kind of jumping across rooftops and different things like that. This scene was good because again it just demonstrated the kind of wee bit of tension. We don't know what's going on with it really, and it's kind of fall into a situation with not knowing what's happened before now. Also, this is the kind of first scene as well that kind of demonstrates the slow motion bullet time effects when she does the somersaults and all the rest of it, which is good. I think it was again in 1999, and I'm pretty sure this was the first film to do that as well. But the scene was good, man. And then she runs away from the agents who are dressed in suits, trying to get her, and then she's dodging these bullets and stuff like that. I mean, so it's action packed, a lot of kind of sci-fi elements to a degree, I think. Brings a sense of mystery to it because we don't really know what's going on. She's running away from these agents, don't know why. But the effects as well in this scene, just from the start, it kind of sets up the film, mate, because I think from here on in is very much the same, or it gets better as the film goes on.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting beginning. As you say, there's obviously a sense of the mystery and that they can jump these like long distances and they can move the way that they do. And it's interesting when we talk about Carrie Ann Moss, when you talked about her in Disturbia. The first place I saw her was actually the polarizing Star Wars show, the Acolyte, and it's quite interesting because the fighting, I think the fight scenes in that show are actually really kind of inspired by The Matrix, and Carrie Ann Moss is obviously involved in some of those scenes in the show, the kind of slow motion fighting and things like that. So I reckon there is some kind of influence there. The bit I didn't manage to do a full rewatch, but the bit where she, like, the truck kind of runs her over when she's inside the phone box. Obviously, later on, you find out that they use the phones to kind of transport in and out of the Matrix. But at the start of the film, you obviously don't know that. So I was a bit confused about how she survived at that point.
Aye, of course it would be because you hit a truck, you're dead. You know what I mean? Especially at that speed.
But I obviously knew she was quite a big character, so I obviously knew that she would be in the film further than that. So so that was the kind of opening scene, and then you get introduced to Neo, who is a programmer. This is probably a reason why this film's quite close to your heart, James. So he's seems a wee bit disillusioned by his job in a sense, because he's got like his alter ego, because his normal name is something that was it?
Thomas Anderson.
Thomas Anderson. That wasn't what I was going to say. So Thomas Anderson's the programmer, but then you've got the kind of nighttime hacker, which is Neo. And and obviously he wakes up and he's got the computer beside him. So I think he was using that computer to do some research into the rebels, Morpheus, etc. at the start.
Aye, so he's a software developer programmer. He's obviously, I would say that he's not very happy with his kind of his life in terms of what he does for a living. So he's a hacker by night, and he's already got kind of aspects of, you know, he's digging deeper into what the Matrix is. He's hacking to find out, you know, different things about, you know, who knows about the Matrix. He's not very happy with his kind of mundane life, if you want to call it that. And then he wants to seek answers. He wants, you know, he just kind of wants to. He knows there's more out there, and he wants answers to that. So I mean, I think he just kind of wants to search for the truth, really, because I think he knows that that the life he's living isn't right or it's real. Because that's kind of that sense of, you know, the difference. So he uses the hacker Neo, that's his name, in the hacking world to find answers, really.
So to him, is the Matrix a wee bit like a conspiracy theory to him at the start? Is it just something he's like heard about and read about? Is that where the kind of interest comes from?
I think it's a conspiracy theory. I don't know much about that, but certainly I think that he's gifted. I think that's quite clear from the start. Do you know what I mean? Like, he is gifted. That I don't think everybody, you know, again, doesn't really focus on that, but it kind of hints at it that, you know, that nobody kind of searches for the way he does. So maybe that there has been some kind of conspiracy before now, but I think it's mainly just his kind of intuition that gets him, you know, wondering about. I just don't think this is real. He's obviously heard about Morpheus being in hacking and all that sort of thing. He's been looking at a few things. Who is Morpheus and what does it kind of symbolise? And you know, kind of just want to make sure that he wants to know what the Matrix is.
There was a question that came up when I started rewatching it, and I wondered if you could fill it in for me. So see the rebels like Morpheus, etc. This might be explained in the film, but obviously it was the first time watching it. Did they just have like a realization moment like Neo as well? Like, do you know how they've unplugged themselves? Did they just go through a similar experience to Neo to then like realize that reality wasn't all it was cracked up to be, or was there another reason?
Doesn't really say that, my recollection, but I think what it does it goes through the characters, and it kind of doesn't really tell you in great detail, but they've all got different skill sets, and their names also tell you that as well. Like Neo, for example, right? So his name is Neo, but that's an anagram of the one. And I don't know if you're going to go through the characters, mate. I don't want to go through them because I wouldn't be doing my job properly if I didn't reference the computing terms all through this film.
No, you go. Just do it now, might as well.
Right. Okay. So we'll go through the characters then, right? So you just start which one? Anyone?
No, just whatever
Right,
you think.
I can go through them all here, but I don't want to go through them all. So basically,
but the big fish.
Sorry,
the big fish.
Agent Smith.
No,
no, Morpheus. So Morpheus is like a system administrator. Like it kind of deals with different operating systems and different things like that. So you might have heard of it, you might not have heard of it. So he's like the system administrator. So which kind of reflects Morpheus's character, that he is in control. He's like the network operator, if you want to call it that. I mean, he is in control of who can wake up and who can't wake up. We've got Agent Smith. I'll go with the next one. So Agent Smith is like basically like the antivirus software of the Matrix, because the Matrix is basically a computer generated program He is the antivirus software, which kind of touches on later on in the film about how the humans are the virus and things like that. And so he's like the antivirus and security protocol. We've got the Oracle. So the Oracle basically, can predict the future type thing, which kind of reflects on the algorithms. So algorithms can reflect on predictive algorithms. What you're going to do based on previous history and whatever. So it's a wee bit of artificial intelligence in there, which is again a theme through the film. We've got Cypher, who's what a Cypher is. It's kind of like a kind of rogue program. Again, there's a few things with Cypher. So Cyphers can read different things and all things like that. We've got Tank and Dozer are really they're not like computing terms as for what I can. It might be again not obvious to me, but they were obviously born in Zion. We've got the Sentinels. So you see the Sentinels at the end of the film.
Yeah.
So they're like the bots. So again, defense systems on that regard. APOC. So APOC switch you see very briefly, and you get Mouse as well. So Mouse is a wee bit obvious, but APOC is basically it means agent population comparison. This is about using and comparing artificial intelligence mechanisms and evaluating them. Switch is to do with networking, and obviously Mouse is a wee bit more kind of obvious. But as you go through that's just the characters, but as you go through the scenes, mate, I'll be able to reflect on different things and what they mean computing related. But that's a wee insight to what their names mean.
Cool. I haven't really thought about the names from that perspective, so that was interesting. You come for the movie review, you stay for the computing lesson. So Neo obviously gets the message that the kind of Matrix is like coming to get him, sort of thing, and he's told to follow the white rabbit, and then it's like basically it says knock knock, and then his door goes. And I had a wee bit of a scene that kind of took me out of it a wee bit, where it was this is like a embarrassing one, but basically I used to always watch. I didn't used to watch it. I used to be on in the house when I was a kid. Home and Away used to always be on. It was like one of the soaps that my mum watched. And the White Rabbit is actually Leah from Home and Away, who's actually still in it to this day. So she's like a really well-known Australian actress that plays the girl with the white rabbit tattoo. So that was a bit of a weird one for me, because as soon as I saw her, I was like, she looks really familiar. So anyway, he follows her to the club where he meets Trinity, and then he gets taken to see Morpheus, and then he's given the big scenario. So basically, if he takes this is interesting, because I'd always heard the blue pill, red pill analogy over the years, but this was my first time actually seeing it in the context of the Matrix. So correct me if I'm wrong, the blue pill means he can just go home and just kind of continue with his life as was, and then if he takes the red pill, he can find out more about what the Matrix actually is. So I get that right?
So the blue pill is just continuing the life. Aye.
The facade. Right. So James, this is your first of three deep questions for today. You probably could have anticipated this one. Would you, in that position, would you have chosen the blue or the red pill?
I think it all depends on the state of mind that you're in. Do you know what I mean? If you're wanting to seek the truth, then you would continue. You would go with the red pill, but it's because of Neil's state of mind at the time, his disillusionment. That's why he chose the red pill. But I know it's not about Neil; it's about me. You're asking, so I would go with the red pill. All right, go for it.
That's what I was anticipating. So he's given the choice. He obviously chooses the red pill because he continues on, and then they basically explain to him kind of all about the Matrix, and then just help me fill in a gap here. So once he chooses that option, does he wake up immediately in the pod thereafter, or was there a scene in between the two?
No, so he takes the red pill and he could see that is it the mirror, isn't it? That's different, and then that's when you kind of start to see the transformation happening, the rebirth of Thomas Anderson, well, rebirth into Neo, which again it's another symbolism of kind of like religion. So there's a few of them in here, but
Yeah.
so that's it goes from there into the pod.
And if you into the pod, there's a pod within the pod.
There you go.
You can probably see them behind me if you're watching this. Yeah. So that scene was pretty gruesome to watch. So he's obviously wakes up and he's got these big kind of pucker marks in his back where he's been kind of plugged into his pod, and he's like soaking wet. He's all slimy. And then you look around, and it's quite a good shot where you see, like, it looks along like the row and sees all the pods, but then he looks like across the way, and he just sees like the sheer amount of what's going on. And I'm assuming that's where the kind of phrase, like, because I actually noticed a bit of foreshadowing in the White Rabbit scene where the guy says that Neo needs to unplug and get some like R&R, which is obviously foreshadowing of unplugging himself from the Matrix. Again, which is a phrase I'd heard quite a lot over the years. So he kind of then goes to speak to the kind of the rest of the rebels, and he's a bit freaked out. He's like what's actually going on? And obviously it turns out that there was a big war, and like the majority of humankind got wiped out, and then this kind of artificial world was created. Do you want to go into that just a wee bit more depth, obviously, with your
so
expansive knowledge?
Well, I wouldn't say expansive, but we'll try. So when you kind of spoke about the pod he makes up, it's a kind of dystopian, looks like this kind of dystopian future. It's a different environment to what he's used to. Do you know what I mean? The kind of dream world where everything's normal. It's a computer simulation. So the moment he takes the red pill, is the truth is there. He wakes up. There's new kind of reborn Neo, which the comparison between the dream world of the Matrix is now a nightmare, because that's what it's in. It's not exactly what he's used to. So it's for him. It's a new thing, a new kind of revelation. So it's dystopian, and all the pods that you see are all the humans that are being harvested by the machines. So it's basically keeping their minds trapped inside all their minds and the pods are all trapped inside the Matrix. And obviously Neo, when he woke up, he was freed from that trap.
So Neo's whole existence it's not like he had a life and then this happened. He's from birth been within the Matrix.
Aye. So Morpheus explains the truth. Humans are grown and used as basically says batteries. Basically to basically fuel the machines to make them work. I mean, I know it's. I mean, I don't know how I would feel if being told that. Do you know what I mean? That you're just living in a. We could be living in a Matrix as well. Do you know what I mean? That you're just a slave, basically. You wake up, go to work, do your things, and then repeat that again. Do you know what I mean? So, for Neo learning that, and then it's very, I would be, he doesn't take it very well, and he gets very disorientated.
Do you not think the Matrix and Black Mirror go quite well together?
Absolutely, aye.
It feels like a feature length Black Mirror episode. That was something I was going to ask you. Like, do you feel like the way the world's going with artificial intelligence and virtual reality? Do you feel like we're approaching a time where people will start to like struggle to tell the difference between like what's real and what's not real?
Well, I think I always joked about it. Do you know what I mean? When Terminator came out, the rise of machines and all that sort of thing, and then you had the Matrix, and you've got different things that they always kind of joke about it. But really, AI's always been there. Do you know what I mean? And just as technology advances, with I'll just say with Moore's law, which is a computing term, which is basically computers grow every 2 years in terms of processing power and everything else. Then artificial intelligence will inevitably get more and more intelligent. Machine learning comes into play. I think we already see the transformation of AI just now. You know what I mean? We've got things like ChatGPT, we've got AI programs for images and videos and things like that. So we can see it in a smaller scale just now. And I think that's only going to get more advanced. I think you need to be careful because at the same time we don't know what it can grow into. But it's quite, you give me a picture side by side, it takes you a while to figure out which one's real or not, which should never be the case. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it can simulate quite well.
It's interesting because AI's became like a proper buzz term over the last 2 years, probably, like in the kind of wider media. But it is obviously name checked specifically in this film as well. So, as you say, it's obviously been around a lot longer than most people would realize.
Aye. I mean, I remember doing higher computing at school, and one of the kind of, what do you call it, units that I did was artificial intelligence, and I had to learn like Prolog and different things like that, and I had to learn about the Turing test, and like the very basic artificial intelligence programs like Eliza, where you basically would type in, like it would give you like symptoms of how you're feeling, and eventually it would start repeating itself because it can't understand. But the more, so you put it into ChatGPT, right? The whole point of that is you get an answer back. But as the more people put in the same question, it starts to develop their answers. So again, it's a machine learning type thing. So it stores all the answers from before and then learns on it and then gets more and more advanced. That's the same with any AI.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to know if there are people feeling like Neo in the real world. Who are there will be people in the world who are questioning whether reality is real. Like you've all
100%.
had that. We've probably all had that thought when it's like, is this the dream and our dreams is our real world? Like there's who can really say for sure? Do you know what I mean?
There's that quote in Inception, and on the back a bit from the times when we did, but Cobb, DiCaprio, he says, dreams, they feel real when they're in them, but it's not until you wake up that you think, was that real or not? So dreams can seem real,
Yeah, it's one to ponder. So obviously once Neo's got the information, he starts to get essentially start to get prepped to become who he's meant to be, someone who can kind of take down the Matrix. And they introduce him to all these different training programs, and one of the most kind of memorable scenes in the film, amongst others, was the one where he's learning. Is it jiu-jitsu he's learning?
Kung Fu.
Was it?
Yeah,
Was that not mentioned?
The fight with Morpheus?
Aye.
He goes like, I know Kung Fu, and Morpheus
I know. I
goes,
remember saying that, but I remember. Maybe I'm just imagining it. I'm sure like something like jiu-jitsu or something was mentioned before that.
jiu-jitsu was the first program that he learned.
Right. Okay. So it did happen. So yeah, he's obviously doing all that because at the start he has that kind of arc because at the start he's not got his full power potential. Like, he obviously has to like learn throughout the film how to fight and how to kind of channel his power, which gives him that arc. Were you a fan of the kind of training montages in this film?
Very, very much so. So when he did the training start, when Tank uploads the training stuff to them, Morpheus comes over and says to him, "How's he getting on?" and a wee bit of kind of foreshadowing as well here is that he says that he's been at it for 10 hours straight. He's a machine, as if that's unheard of. Do you know what I mean? So like that's kind of pointing in the direction that he is the one, because the one before him has managed to do the training for as long as him, and he can just see all the programs being installed onto his brain, which is good. I do like the scenes, especially when it comes to Morpheus and the training one where he goes, I know kung fu, and it's like he's fighting Morpheus in the dojo, and everybody's excited. It's like, oh, Morpheus is fighting Neo, and they all run to watch it because they want to know whether or not Morpheus is right, because they all want him to be the one. And Trinity at the same time has got different views on it because she's been told a different thing by the Oracle. And not that he's the one as such, but just how she feels about him. So that's a different take, but the fighting is good. We can learn that Morpheus doesn't break a sweat in it at all. Again, shows you his kind of domination, but you can see that Neo's got traits of being better than the most of the people already there, as you call them, rebels.
Yeah.
Star Wars reference?
No, my Star Wars reference was the Acolyte. Actually,
okay.
well, they are rebels against the system, I suppose.
I know.
So those scenes are obviously needed to get Neo up to a kind of fighting level, I suppose, for the kind of the last third of the film. So Morpheus obviously gets attacked and kidnapped essentially by the agents, who are a kind of lurking presence throughout the film. And then Neo's kind of told that he'll have to make a decision about, and this is like the second big decision he's had to make essentially, where he either like protects himself or whether he kind of gives it all to rescue Morpheus. So that was my kind of third of my three questions for you. If you're in that position, would you be all about like kind of self-preservation, or would you want to rescue your kind of mentor figure?
Well, I don't think I've ever been kind of selfish. I mean, I would always kind of help as many people as I can at whatever cost. And I think Neo was told by the Oracle that he had to make a decision from before. And I think Neo probably owed it to Morpheus at the same time that he released him from that mundane dream world and tell him the truth. So I would choose to save my mentor as well.
Cool. Yeah, so obviously the Oracle, she doesn't have a big screen time in the film, but she's obviously important in the sense of it's kind of unexpected where he finds her. It's just like a wee lady in her kitchen essentially. And she kind of tells him, she basically makes him feel like he isn't the one. But then later in the film, it's said that he had to think that at that moment to essentially become the one.
Aye, so basically, at the time, going back a bit now, because this is before the Morpheus caption, but she told him what he had to hear. Do you know what I mean? Telling him that he had to make those decisions. So it's like, it's follow the breadcrumbs, essentially. He had to make the decisions. At some point, he had to make the decision where he believed that he was in order to become the one. So he had to make those. She didn't tell him outright, because at the same time, I don't know if that does any good. He had to make those decisions for himself in order to grow as a leader.
And he might just kind of rest on his laurels, thinking if he's definitely the one, then he might just not put in some of the effort in terms of his training and in terms of the rescue. And he might think it'll all just come naturally. So we'll kind of just combine the last two bits. So there's the big rescue sequence where Trinity and Neo are going to rescue Morpheus, and there's a lot of good cinematography and action scenes in there.
I know it's the bit where they walk into the building and they've got all the weapons and all the rest of it.
I like that bit. It's like we need a gun or something like that. And then there's just like a
Aye,
million.
all the weapons. They walk into the building and it's like, "Can you please remove any non-metallic items?" Blah blah blah. And then he's opens his coat up and he's got all the guns and the fight sequence happens,
Yeah.
all the slow motion. They run up the pillars and things. It was just amazing. Even the guns and they're shooting away and they're missing. They're hitting the walls. Everything seems so real. But at this point in time, it's important. At the same time, Agent Smith's unplugged himself so he can talk to Morpheus. So he doesn't know what's happening right now in the building.
Right.
So he's talking to Morpheus, basically telling him that he's disgusting, humans are vile, blah blah blah, and there's a big kind of monologue by him during that scene. So he doesn't know that Neo and Trinity are in the building.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the other agents come up and tell him, what you doing, because he's went off track. No, he's not meant to be doing that. Do you know what I mean? Because he basically tells him as well that he needs to get away from it. Blah blah blah. But that whole fight scene is brilliant. They take up, they find Morpheus using the helicopter. And he's got the minigun shooting through the building. The slow motion of that as well, breaking the glass. The agents are fighting, but they're shooting back. You can see that the bullets hitting the water as well, like in slow motion bullet time. It's everything from that scene onwards. So I don't think there's a bad scene. In terms of cinematography and the action, it's just a masterclass. To be honest with you, like slow motion, all the special effects in it are just amazing. Even when the Morpheus jumps from the building onto the helicopter and Neo grabs him because he knows he's not going to make it because he gets shot in the leg, didn't he? Morpheus gets shot in the leg, and so he can't jump. And he grabs him, and then even the helicopter scene coming down, and then drop Morpheus onto the top of the building. Listen, that was I don't know what you thought of it, mate, but it was just amazing.
Yeah, I was a big fan of the cinematography and the fight scenes. There was a bit that just came to mind there where, like, at the start, he's a bit uncertain of how you can make that big jump, and he's like, if I bleed there, do I bleed here too? But it all kind of comes back to it's all about like your mindset, and if he like believes he can jump, and if he believes he can heal himself or whatever it is, then that will happen.
Aye, it's what he says as well. No, if I die here, to die in the Matrix. If I die in the Matrix, to die here. Well, your body can't live without the mind. The same way that your mind makes it real. So there's that scene when he came out the training sequence with Morpheus that his mouth is bleeding because his mind makes it real. So I mean it was all good, man. Even like just go back to the bit in the corridor, like the CGI there as well, mate. Do you know what I mean? It was I would like for the 1999, it was amazing, cutting edge stuff, man.
I do want to watch it again. Also, I was a wee bit tight for time to get the 2 watches in before we reviewed it. So I'll give you developing thoughts if I watch it again. And obviously, something else that kind of builds into this is the fact that Cypher turned kind of traitor and is working with Agent Smith because he wants to get plugged back in and just kind of forget and just have like a nice life like away from all this. So he's maybe the opposite to Neo in the sense of he's fed up with the real reality and wants to go back to the fake reality. So he kills a few of the different characters, but a few of them, like I think it's Tank that survives, and he kind of helps save Neo in the end.
Aye, so Cypher just is kind of fed up being in the real world. He just wants to go back again. There's that scene where he makes a deal with Agent Smith. Just if I give you Morpheus, then the deal is to take me back to the real world. Sorry, to the Matrix. that scene was he seemed shifty as well because he threw his phone away. Obviously, that was kind of him starting that process. When then the glitch of the Matrix, which is another, I can tell a glitch is in computing. It freezes. It's something's no right. And the deja vu moment was that part. And then Morpheus asked for the phone, and Cypher's didn't have his phone, so he had to get another phone. And then that's where the whole process started. He had to get another phone back to the Nebuchadnezzar, which is the ship, and started to kind of take away people. So he killed, we thought he killed Tank, first of all. He did kill Dozer though. And then he takes control of Tank's kind of operator and starts to kind of slowly, he kills Switch, he kills APOC, and before he tried to kill Neo, Tank takes back the operating, and then from there they're all saved, but they leave without Morpheus.
Cypher's situation's quite interesting, as we talked about how things, like, obviously it kind of relates a bit to like social media today. Like, it's kind of like he is fed up with the real world, and it's kind of like how a lot of people go into like video games or podcasts or social media as a means of escaping from reality. So he's really kind of bigging up our tagline.
Well, there you go. Aye. See, what I wanted to touch on is like see Cypher. Do you think he was right doing that? I mean, obviously he wasn't right, but I mean, it's quite a grey area because I don't think he was bad. I don't think he wasn't bad. It just shows you how desperate he was. Do you know what I mean? Because he was so fed up. Like, how many times did Morpheus have these things about these what do you call them, visions, or who's the one and all the rest of it? He's fed up with the Oracle. Obviously he wasn't right for killing people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to say that it just shows how desperate he was. That he would prefer the dream, the false, rather than the truth.
And I think that's a real, that, as we were just saying, I think that's a thing that a lot of people kind of live by in terms of wanting to avoid those difficult truths. So obviously Neo's been building his kind of powers and experiences and belief. I think a big theme of this film is like that kind of self-belief that we spoke about. So it all kind of leads to the final showdown between the agents and Neo, and you obviously just kind of see his powers developing, so that he gets chucked onto the train track, and it looks like they're both going to run over, and he leaves the agent for death, but he doesn't actually die. But then there's the scene, which is our kind of background for the podcast here. It's where he kind of starts to see the Matrix like in its actual form, like the kind of inside of the
Source code.
Yeah. So you want to talk about that bit just from the computing perspective?
Aye, so I mean the whole scene anyway, like in the subway station, so he's fighting Agent Smith. That's the kind of the journey to kind of self-discovery, where he believes in himself that he's the one that he can actually hold his own against, an agent where no one before him could. Even Morpheus couldn't. In that scene for before. So it's the free will type thing. He's fearless. He believes himself. You can quite clearly see he's not there yet. He's getting battered from pillar to post, but he does have a fight. The scene as well where the agent Smith's going up against the wall, and you can see the fists in his stomach again, the slow motion effects of that as well, which is brilliant. I just thought it was really good storytelling as well, man. It's just a real kind of, I mean, every move, it was like those punches, those blocking. It was a real kind of really good fight scene.
Are the sequels a direct continuation of this film?
Aye.
Like recurring cast, or?
Aye, I mean, the one, well, you've seen the end of this film, so aye, it's recurring. There's no one. I think Tank might not be there. Actually, you know, is it Michael from Lost that's is the operator? I could be wrong.
Is it?
Aye,
There's
in Matrix Reloaded.
a lot of the time the sequels to like the kind of classic films aren't. Are they? Would you say the Matrix sequels are worth watching?
This one's the best one, right? I'll say that now. I think Reloaded was good. I thought the second one was good. The third one, I felt it was a bit of a stretch. Matrix is always compared against Lord of the Rings for some reason or another, right? Because I think they both came out roughly at the same time. I know Hugo Weaving was in Lord of the Rings as well, and he was doing this at the same time. And it's like, what do you prefer, the Lord of the Rings trilogy or the Matrix trilogy? And a lot of folk would probably say Lord of the Rings trilogy. Once I've spoken to you about it in the past, I think the Matrix trilogy, personally, I just holds a little bit. It holds a wee bit more for me because of the background of the film and its computing and whatever. But I do like this one. But I've not finished it, Mix. I know you're talking about the transformation of Neo. So he fights Agent Smith. He goes into the subway. Obviously, he throws him on the train track and he gets run over by the train. But as agents do, they can morph into anybody in the Matrix. So the train stops, he comes off the train, and then they're running away. And then Neo's trying to find an exit. So again, I wouldn't be doing my job properly if I didn't explain some of these terms. Right? So it talks about back doors. So a back door in computing and cybersecurity is all about gaining another entry point. So not through the original or through the normal route through a front door, if you will. So you can go through ports to gain access to a computer system. So as to escape the Matrix, they go through the back door. So he manages to do that to get to a phone, but as he opens the door, he's then killed and shot. He was shot and killed by Agent Smith. Again, everybody thinks that he's gone now, and Morpheus is starting to lose belief that he is the one. At this point in time, the Sentinels are in the Nebuchadnezzar, ready to kill them all. But they've got an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, that can kill the Sentinels. But by doing that, will then kill Neo as well, because it disables all the electronics. But you can see from the screen, well, they can see from the screen that Neo's back to life, and he has become the one. So again, this rebirth of realization that he was the one, and then kind of reflects back to what Morpheus said, because he said to him as well, I can dodge bullets. And he goes, Neo, no, when the time is right, you would have to. And he just stops the bullets mid-air and drops them. And then it kind of shows you how again, links back to how Morpheus and Neo were fighting, because Neo was breaking a sweat trying to get close to Morpheus. Smith was trying to get close to Neo. Neo was like just doing, blocking each one, and then even doing the turn to side. He's got one hand doing it, which shows you how good he is.
Effortless, yeah.
It is effortless.
Yeah, the last scene and like the one in our background, probably my favorite sequence in the film. Like once he kind of develops or realizes his full potential.
Aye, because at that point in time, the two other agents you see in your picture there run away because they know this Agent Smith has just been defeated here. Because Neo basically runs into him and takes over his body and makes him explode, which is which follows on to the next film, what happened there. But it just shows you his kind of his new self. Again, realization that he's the one, the transformation that he's the one. His journey is kind of complete to a degree. He can now see the source code, which is, basically he's now capable of seeing the artificial world. Because before he was limited, he felt that there was limitations to him you couldn't see what other people could see. Very much like the dream world, he was limited to himself in there. That's why he sought the truth to free himself. He was still limited to a degree inside the real world, and now he's free from that. He can now see what other people see, and is now capable of much more.
This is we've spoken before about how there's movies tongue in cheek say are business movies. Is this one you've ever shared or referenced in class?
No, I don't tend to watch movies.
No, not watch them, but if you're explaining a concept, maybe it's one that you could tie in with. You know what I mean?
I've never thought about it, to be honest with you, because I end up just watching the full thing. And I watched.
You could do a wee Matrix unit.
I do. There's one scene. There's two films that I watch in terms of cybersecurity, and biometrics and things. So I do touch upon the Mission Impossible scene. When trying to, there's a scene in Mission Impossible. They're having to go through different levels of biometrics, and then there's Minority Report as well, which there's a scene in there about biometrics. So he basically has to get new eyeballs because I won't go into it, but I don't watch the full films, but it does link to cyber and what do you call it, biometrics. But I might watch Matrix in time. I don't know.
There you go. Right, James. So in terms of
before, sorry, I need to again just talk about the computing thing. So the blue and red pill symbolise ones and zeros.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so obviously a computer's a two-state machine, so 1 and 0. The agents are the programs in the, as I said before, agents are the antivirus software, if we want to call them that. Humans are the viruses, as according to the agents. What else? I'm just trying to think. I said about the back door, didn't I? Escape routes.
Yeah.
The green code that you see, which by the way is taken from Japanese sushi menus. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No.
It is. The green code that's the symbolism of the source code in a computer. And I mentioned Oracle, didn't I, already? I think there's maybe more, but there's a lot of computing terminology that's kind of in this without actually people wouldn't need to understand what they mean. But that's what it is. So I mean,
no, I was just round up and get your seismic stars for this film, which is a rating out of 10, just based on this film alone.
Oh. I'm stuck here. I think I might get stuck for this, other people. But I'm going to give it 10. I'm going to give it 10 out of 10. I wouldn't give the next two films 10 out of 10, but this one in particular it's a masterpiece. It really is. Like for the 1999 and everything that came with it. I mean, I know someone said in the comments that this film was the best film in 1999. The two films you mentioned off at the top, the show there, Green Mile and Fight Club, are two fantastic films. I'd have to agree. The Green Mile is special, it really is special. I just think because this film and everything surrounds it, AI, computing, and all the rest of it, it's close to me. So I'm going to give it 10 out of 10, and I think it probably is the best film in 1999. Just with those two films you've mentioned there, it's a good film, man. It's a great film. It's a masterpiece, as I said. And I feel like sometimes I give 10 out of 10s quite like give them out like sweeties, just give them out. But I think in this particular episode, this podcast, The Matrix is well deserving of a 10 out of 10, just because it's quite close to my heart.
There's a few caveats with my score. Obviously, one, the fact I hadn't seen it before, which is my own bad. So I watching it for the first time in 2024. Secondly, I only managed one full watch through, and I think it is a film that's considered quite complex in its story. So I reckon it's one I probably have slightly different views on as kind of time went on. There was a couple. I like the plot. I like the theme of like self discovery and the kind of reality versus the different realities, I suppose. But there were a few things. The action scenes were great, and they've obviously inspired a lot of other kind of films and shows that have came thereafter. There's a couple of things. I wasn't a big fan of the aspect of the ending with Trinity and how like she was going to fall in love with the one. I didn't feel like there was a lot of hints towards, and this has happened in a few films we've reviewed. I don't think there was a massive hint towards like a romantic relationship between them, and I felt it was a wee bit of a kind of eye roll moment, that bit where I know it linked into like the Oracle and all that kind of stuff, but what was your take on that aspect of the ending?
Again, to be fair, I thought it was coming because you know you could sense it even when she was bringing them dinner and all the rest of it. Because that was like it's hinted because Cypher's like, you never ever brought me dinner. How come this is different? You know what I mean? So it could have hinted
Again,
that.
yeah, maybe on a second watch I would notice it more, but in that initial watch, I didn't feel like there was a great build up to a relationship between them. I wasn't a fan of the Sentinels. I thought they looked a bit naff in a sense. I suppose it is as a film. I wasn't a big fan of their look. That was just something that kind of stood out to me. In terms of an overall score, where I'm at the moment, I'm probably going to go, I would say 7.5.
Okay.
And the main reasons, as I said, is one, I'd probably like to rewatch it. It is one you need to kind of get your head around a wee bit, but there were a few aspects of it that I just mentioned there that I wasn't that keen on. But I am glad I have watched it. I kind of wish I'd watched it earlier in the week, so I could have done like a second full rewatch.
Aye.
But I'll definitely kind of fill you in as time goes on. But I'll go for 7.5 because it's obviously got a lot of. And plus, another thing I didn't mention was there's a lot of, like, I've seen so many of the clips and I've seen so many like memes and still images of the characters and a lot of the scenes. Like I felt like I had kind of seen it in some senses, because the first time I seen Morpheus, I was like, I've seen his face on like memes so many times. You know what I mean? So there's that side of it as well.
See, I only referenced the 1, 2, and 3 films. At the last one that came out, number 4, I don't even count that. That was just absolutely garbage. So I would avoid that, mate. To be honest with you, I don't think it was required really. It was just I don't know why it was even made.
I'll maybe try and catch the second and third one at some point.
See, before we do wrap up, mate, I know you've already mentioned it on your screens to the viewers, but on our background just now, there is the source code, and in the background you can see the 3 agents in the background. See if you look very closely.
I know where you're going with this.
See, you look very closely. I know it can only probably be read by people who can actually read the source code, but if you look very closely to the middle guy, you can actually see what's the script podcast in there. So if you're lucky enough,
I knew you were going with that right away.
If you're lucky enough to actually read the source code, then you can check out What's the Script podcast and the latest episode in there. So I check them out.
I think James is taking over me in that regard. Right. So thank you, James. And thank you, everyone, for listening. You can find Seismic Cinema on X, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and Facebook. And feel free to like our Facebook page and join our community group. You can watch us on YouTube and Spotify, and you can also listen on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, and Amazon Music. So if you have a wee bit of time today and you enjoyed the episode, give us a follow or a like or a share, or all three if you want to. And you can also check out the Podback Collective, of which we are a member. There's lots of great podcasts, lots of great people, lots of great content. So give them a follow and a share too. And before we sign off, James, have you got any thoughts on what you'd like to pick next?
I do. Now, because obviously we're into the spooky season, I think it's quite apt that we start with the Halloween films. So I'm going to go way back. I'm not going to go to the horror flicks. I'm not going to go to the psychological horror, I'm going to go to a wee classic Hocus Pocus.
Serious, yeah?
I'm going to go a different direction. Yep, I'm going to go Hocus Pocus.
Okay, fair enough.
Right.
One of
So-
Alien's favourite films, actually, so there you go. Right, okay, we'll do that then. So I'm Colin. I hadn't seen this, which is a big part of the hook of our podcast, is that I haven't seen lots of things I should have seen. So please let me know what else I need to see. Paul probably watched Matrix 3, 1, then 2. And James,
I've probably written an essay on it. So I didn't write an essay in this one, but I could talk a good bit on it. So, aye.
I think it's time to unplug now.
Yeah, good idea.
Housewarming